Arma Reforger, a title I don't think many were expecting, but a welcome change nonetheless. By using the new Infusion engine, Bohemia Interactive are pushing the bounds of what Arma, as a milsim series, has to offer. What I'd like to do in this video is to compare and contrast some of the base features in Arma 3, some of the mods that have been introduced into Arma 3, and how they have been brought forward or changed for Arma Reforger. The features that I want to highlight are those that are present within single player as well as multiplayer. It only recently became possible for me to play multiplayer, so none of the clips mention multiplayer exclusive features such as the radio filter. The list of compiled features in this video I could not have created without the help from the safe community. You can find information in the description down below if you feel like joining us for the occasional Arma 3 mission. With that in mind, I think now is the perfect time to compare and take a look at those features that exist in Arma 3 modded, and have been brought forward into Arma Reforger. A great place to start is obstacles and how they have changed over the various versions. In vanilla Arma 3, waist-high walls and fences could be hopped over by the pressing of a single key. This allowed for moving around in areas where these obstacles existed quite easily, but inherently it did have a bit of a problem. Namely, it would only work on waist-high objects. Anything like a fence which is scalable, you wouldn't be able to climb. In those situations, you would be forced to move around them. This tactic was often used by mission makers to arrange the players down certain avenues, tailoring a firefight. But it didn't just stop there. It also extended to walls. In most instances, you would not be able to climb over them and had to go around. Sometimes you would get lucky and be able to go underneath. Arma 3 Modded has a fantastic mod called Enhanced Movement. This would allow players to traverse the waist-high walls, but it wouldn't just stop there. It also allowed you to climb over those fences that stood in your way, even the barbed wire ones. This opened up a large number of tactical options for players, as players were no longer restricted by walls that they couldn't climb and had to crawl under, fences that they could shoot through but had to go around. Even vehicles that had been stalled or damaged during a firefight could be climbed. In Arma Reforger, the player is able to hop over knee-high walls, waist-high walls, through windows, three-quarter-high walls and walls taller than the player, with all of these climbing features built into the base game. Pointing is a feature that has existed even in vanilla Arma 3. It can be shown here by pin, in Arma 3 Modded, because of a mod known as Ace, you get an animation that plays and a ring that highlights around what you're pointing at. But it doesn't stop there. It would also integrate with other mods such as DUI, indicating on the HUD the direction you are pointing. In Arma Reforger, pointing is done by pressing a single key. This brings us to vehicles. Vehicles make an integral part of all Arma games. In vanilla Arma 3, a scroll menu on the top left would appear when interacting with a vehicle, showing you the seating positions available, as well as allowing you to access the vehicle's inventory. What played when entering was a very short and simple animation showing you hopping in or out of the various vehicle seats. If you wanted to change seats while inside the vehicle, you would use the top left scroll menu again. This could be done in first person or in third person view. If your vehicle was damaged, low on ammo, low on fuel, you could drive it towards vanilla objects, and as soon as you'd stopped, your vehicle would be repaired, rearmed, and refueled. While not the most realistic, it would enable you to get quickly back into the fight. When it came to another vanilla vehicle, such as the Hemet, it would have its own animations for a driver getting in and out, and a passenger getting in and out. When it came to the four-wheeler, animations for the driver entering and exiting were also unique, but it didn't just stop there. In third person, where would your gun go? There it is, on your back. This not only existed for the driver, but also for the passenger. In Arma 3 Modded, by using enhanced movement, you could press Shift F on a vehicle to select a specific seat to hop into. With the mod Ace, you would gain a self-interaction menu, enabling you to switch between various seats in the vehicle. This was a huge improvement compared to the scroll menu that exists in vanilla Arma 3. Due to the modularity that was offered by the Ace mod, you could have as simple or as complex a time as you want when it came to repairing, rearming and refueling vehicles. By using the same self-interaction button on a vehicle, you could rearm your vehicle. A progress bar would appear showing how long it would take to fully rearm your vehicle. The rearming vehicle could also be set up to not fully rearm a vehicle due to its own ammo storage. When it came to refueling a vehicle, you would need to go to a vehicle, connect a hose, and slowly fill up the tank. When it comes to repair, you would need to replace wheels, you would need to replace tank tracks, or if you were an engineer or maintainer, you would need to repair individual components of the vehicle. Replacing the wheel on vehicles could be done by a standard infantryman, but in order to repair the vehicle back to fully working condition, you would need to be either an engineer or a maintainer. Looking at Reforger, there are clear button prompts for getting in and out of vehicles. There is an interactable component to interacting with the vehicle lights and engine, but also switching seats. This can be done by looking at the desired seat and pressing a single button. In switching to third person, you are still able to get that initial prompt for entering a vehicle, but changing seats, turning on the lights, turning on the engine, that can't be done in third person. You have to do it in first. The scroll wheel makes a return, as can be seen with this BTR, where a single entrance point is able to access multiple different seats. Continuing with vehicles, we have their interaction with fences and trees. In Arma 3, hitting a tree would cause it to fall down based on the size of the tree. The tree would fall 90 degrees based on the direction of impact. When it came to fences, sections of the fence could be knocked down, falling flat in a similar manner to those trees. In Reforger, fences break apart in a much more realistic manner. Trees don't even move though. Scopes, tools, and inventory. In vanilla Arma 3, you would have multiple different scopes on your gun, the ability to free look while having the gun in a ready position, and even then there would be some level of reflection on the back of the scope. When you are looking down the sight of your gun, you have a limited field of view, which should be correct. You're looking down your sight after all. You could also bring up a compass. This compass would be a 3D object indicating your direction in bearings. This similar system could be used to bring up a watch. When it came to a map, you would simply press a key on your keyboard and a map would appear. This map would also have a compass that shows your relative direction. The inventory system within Arma 3 was fairly basic, showing your containers, which were your clothes, vest and backpack, as well as your weaponry, attachments for said weaponry, helmets, facewear, night vision goggles and binoculars. Items on the ground or in your inventory could be dragged to the appropriate slot or right-clicked to be equipped. What you were wearing would have an effect on your carrying capacity, which would also affect your total stamina. In vehicles, you would have much the same system, except instead of the ground showing on the left, you would have a crate. This worked for all items that contained an inventory in a similar manner, allowing for items to be dragged from the player's inventory to the crate and vice versa. But what about Arma 3 modded? There are so many different variations of clothing apparel from mods, it would take too long to go through them all. In Arma Reforger, you can look down the sight of your gun and take a look around you, holding it in a combat ready position, the same as Arma 3. However, in Reforger, there is a bit of an added extra. As you are looking down the sight of your gun, you can press and hold the free look key to look right, left, up or down, giving you that extra bit of situational awareness. The scope also now shows a bit more of a reflection, indicative of where you are on the island. By bringing up your compass in Arma Reforger, you are not left with a small compass object that moves, but rather a hand holding a compass that wobbles around realistically, giving that added bit of realism. The watch reacts in a similar way. The map is pulled out by pressing a single key, same as Arma 3. However, a small animation plays, and while you're in the map, other players can see you in the map. Your inventory is a grid system similar to that found in DayZ standalone. However, your various pieces of clothing now have weight limits and percentage limits as to how full they are. Vehicle inventories now appear in the vicinity of the inventory screen. Inventory in vehicles is expanded upon, where you have the ammunition transferred from the player's inventory into a specific storage available only to the person in that seat. This brings us on to nighttime and lights. In Arma 3, lights from a player's gun or static object would shine through various objects, such as walls, and the frame rate of the game would suffer with multiple moving light sources. An interesting thing to note is the light from the side of the gun does not produce a shadow from the barrel of the gun. In Reforger, you can see shadows being produced from trees, bushes, walls, rocks in a much more realistic manner. This implementation is not without its own problems. If, for example, you put the torch back on your chest and pull out your gun, you do not see a shadow from your gun, even though you clearly see your gun being lit up by the torch. Even with a pistol, an object much smaller, no shadow is visible. Getting wet is a feature I find rather interesting. In Arma 3, it doesn't matter if you're in the rain or swimming, there's no indication that your character is wet. In Arma Reforger, there is a system in place where if it is raining or you walk into water, the wet texture is overlaid on your character. This brings us to a mod made by Rabbit Squirrel, RS Rain Texture. What this mod does is it applies a wet texture not just to your clothing, such as your clothes, vest and backpack, but also to your weaponry. Now, you may have noticed that as soon as you touch the water, the wet texture is applied, in a very similar way to that seen in Reforger. The wet texture is also applied to weapons, making this a perfect add-along to those wet missions. Now, let's compare the different vehicles that are available. In Arma 3 Vanilla, there are APCs, there are tanks, there are jets, there are planes, there are drones, there are helicopters, there are so many different types of vehicles available. Arma 3 modded again has so many vehicles, some from previous Arma titles, some different versions of vehicles in use by modern day militaries, even those used in World War I or World War II. Arma Reforger has these vehicles, and yes, some are just reskins of the same vehicle, but the important thing to remember is that Reforger is still new, and Arma 3 and its modding scene have been around for nearly a decade, not including mods made for previous titles. While Arma Reforger may not have those jets and helicopters we all love to see, I feel it is only a matter of time before the developers or mod makers add those in. Either way, I don't think we have that long to wait. Arma Reforger is a lot of things, but I think it's such a good indication that the developers are not only looking at what mods players like, but how to incorporate them into the base game.